SpeekyGeeky's TMNT Character Spotlight. Hi, everybody. Welcome to SpeekyGeeky. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Geeky. Today, we are going to be discussing and giving a big ol' spotlight to NECA Archie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures toy line. Over the years, we've tried to bring you episode after episode of all different lengths and realms of Turtles. Sometimes those episodes were Mirage, sometimes Fred Wolf, sometimes 2012, but historically, and you know we love diving deep into all the history here, those would focus on around 6 or so rad characters within each offering. Over the years, however, we've had a myriad of folks take time out of their busy days to ask us if we might be able to keep all the deep diving fun, but break it down a bit, because there's a big difference between finding 15 minutes at a time to learn about one exciting character versus over an hour to hear about 6 or more. We understand incredibly well that an hour or more is sometimes a long commitment then doable in this breakneck speed world we occupy. So we figured, heck, we think there's a way to meet folks where they're at. However they'd like to view our deep dives, by creating both a long-form episode and a series of shorter, broken-down character-specific episodes, so that way we're putting the turtle power of choice in the viewer's hands on how they would like to interact on all our dorky character content goodness. Plus, this way, if you like a specific character and want others to know how freaking bodacious they are, boom! You can share a quick story with them versus throwing a full-on shelf of encyclopedia books their way. That said, we'd love for fans to weigh in on who you would like to see covered in our TMNT deep dives too. So be sure to let us know in the chat and in the comments below, because who knows? Some of your choices may end up making an appearance or two in one of our upcoming episodes as well. So welcome to our new-ish Spotlight series, where every episode we choose a different character from the various worlds of Turtles, and eventually other shows as well, to deconstruct their origins for your viewing entertainment. A reminder here too that each of these episodes can be found in their fuller form within other episodes within our channel as well, which we'll always be sure to conveniently drop links for within the video and the description. So if that is your preferred way of hearing more, by golly, we got you covered there too. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy hearing more about a specific character within the world of Turtles than you could ever want to know. JESS HARLEY, Pre-Mutation Leatherhead, and Classic Leatherhead. But, as things tend to go from time to time, originally, we had imagined this option as a 2-pack with JESS HARLEY and his wrestling Leatherhead counterpart, set with removable clothes from HARLEY that could then be added to his wrestling version to recreate Classic Leatherhead from the wrestling version base. But, since that wrestling version appears now to be coming to us in toy form, we'll just plop that equally important classic comic version, which hasn't technically been revealed as of this recording, into this option. And boom, folks, that's called a midstream changeover, and nobody in the audience has any idea. Could what we just noted have been an internal dialogue versus saying this all out loud as a stream of consciousness for all to hear? Sure, it could have been. But this is the kind of full transparency extra layers we like to provide here on the SpeekyGeeky channel. We're not just a deep dive, giving you all the nostalgic factoids you could shake a handful of pizza points at. Nope! You also get a front row seat to the inner workings of our neuro-spicy mind Sherlock Holmesing in real time to see how the gumbo that we call the Which Fingers Do We Want series all comes together. So buckle up and keep your arms inside the vehicle, folks, because this deep dive just went off the rails real quick. We guarantee. So, longtime fans of the Turtles franchise likely know at least a little bit about Leatherhead, or can at least recognize him on sight that he is from this world. Boiled down, he's a big old gator the Turtles are often seen scrapping with, or making nicey-nicey with, or both, depending on the specific iteration. Heck, sometimes he even has an Utram living in his belly depending on where our first encounter with that character is. But just who is this JESS HARLEY fella, huh? He kind of looks like a human version of Leatherhead, but that can't be right because Leatherhead is usually an alligator who mutates into a version of the reptile we know and love. That's what his Playmates card back says. That's what happened in Mirage. That's what happened in the Fred Wolf series. And that is what we'd continue believing if we had never read the Archie Comics series. Yup. If you so astutely guessed that JESS HARLEY is indeed none other than Leatherhead within this iteration, as well as the TMNT comic strip that ran around the same time, you'd be entirely accurate. So firstly, let's take a moment to give you a well-deserved high 3, you awesome guesser you. And secondly, let's talk about this for a moment and break down how this version of Leatherhead is drastically different than all the versions that came before it, and continues to stand out from all versions that came after as well. But before we do that, let's get this pesky little tidbit out of the way from the get-go, which is that technically, Leatherhead in the Archie comics isn't actually a mutant. Wait, hold on. What? How? I mean, he sure looks like a mutant. What are you trying to pull here, Geeky? In the very technical aesthetic sense, yes, sure, he's mutant enough to be called a mutant. If Dirk Savage existed within this universe, he would still be trying to hunt him down as well. But rather than being transformed by ooze within the Archie world, this version of Leatherhead is created when an old woman named Mary Bones, whom the human JESS HARLEY was attempting to steal from, uses the item he was trying to nab, called the Turnstone, to transmute him into the mutant alligator. And yes, for folks who have been reading up on their IDW TMNT and feel like the name Turnstone sounds familiar, it is indeed the same Turnstone connected to the character Cherubay that makes an appearance there. And almost 40-year-old spoiler here, that Mary Bones character we just mentioned is, in fact, the alien Cherubay in her human disguise. Dun 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 dun! The general gist of the Turnstone is that it's an incredibly powerful artifact from the far reaches of space that allows its users the uncanny ability to transform others into anything they want. We make sure to note this tidbit because later on, Leatherhead goes on to be a staunch ally to the Turtles, even going on some one-on-one adventures with his good pal Donatello in the Archie equivalent of Marvel's Savage Land, and then even assisting them further as a full-fledged member of the Mutanimals. But at no point, even after seeing the changeover to full-on hero territory, did Cherubay think to herself, gee, I wonder if maybe I should ask this demonstrated hero if he prefers this form, or if he has a form of his own choosing I could easily transmute him into with my handy change-o-matic orb. That's neither here nor there. It's just adult us thinking that was kind of a jerk move to not at least circle back in with him, to be like, okay, lesson learned about being a better you, but like, you cool with this? In fairness, within the issue, the final conflict, Cherubay does give Leatherhead a little Deus Ex Machina closure by implying that she had prophesied that he must be in this alligator form to help turn the tide of the upcoming conflict with the Turnstone, that it was always his destiny. But even after this, she doesn't offer to turn him back, and if she prophesied that, one might ascertain she would have divined that she knew of his upcoming demise while still in this form that she once again is choosing to just simply look the other way on. So if we were Leatherhead hearing this explanation, we imagine a whole wealth of uniquely Cajun expletives that might be running through our head to toss her way right about now. It is also worth pointing out that Leatherhead himself wasn't buying Cherubay's all too convenient "it was always your destiny" explanation, and outright calls that out to her face. But even then, she never makes the offer to revert him back to his original form. Again, while Cherubay is positioned as a hero, she sure doesn't always think like a hero. At this point, you may be thinking to yourself, hey Geeky, this Cherubay character seems important to this series also. What's her whole deal? And to that, we'll just say, well, hold your horses, overly anxious imaginary viewer. We'll be getting to that character a little more fully later in the deep dive. Circling back to Leatherhead's Archie origins for a moment, we know we said he isn't technically a mutant in the traditional sense, but because in this series we don't technically know where the mutagen ooze originated from, who are we to say that he is any less mutant than any other ooze-derived character? It very well could just be a centralized harnessing of the substance within a more targeted and centralized orb form. Since the mechanics of the Turnstone are never fully cleared up, it's as good as an explanation as any. What do we see this proposed 2-pack coming with? Well, part of this depends on what might already be coming with Wrestling Leatherhead, which at the moment of our writing is still very much a mystery. But assuming that character comes with items associated with his wrestling arc, we like to think this version could come with a Turnstone, opposable bendy tail, and a couple of extra pop-out expressions for Leatherhead himself, so he can toggle between his peaceful and unassuming mode to a grizzled taking the fight to malignus horde of malignoids mode with a full set of chompers on full display. Though this wasn't present in the Archie comic and was more specific to the comic strip arc, we'd also love to see some of the other alternate heads of forms JESS HARLEY transmuted into before Cherubay switched him back to his alligator form in the comic strip, including a turtle, a Von Bode-like bird creation, and a miniature Leatherhead the size of a rat. SpeekyGeeky's TMNT polls. Since we're already talking about holding new characters in plastic, we figured we would take a moment to ask you, the viewer, who you would like to see in one of our upcoming videos. We've been running polls on our YouTube community page as well as our SpeekyGeeky Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit pages as to which TMNT characters from various iterations we might want to see as toys. Here are some options from our latest polls, which you can weigh in on here in the comments or head on over to any of our socials for the full list of option names to weigh in over there as well. And stay tuned because these winning options and more may very well appear in an upcoming TMNT deep dive or 2, or 10. There are also some incredibly talented TMNT customizers who are already creating some of those characters who appear on our polls. And it is a beautiful thing to see. Here are just a few of those absolutely creative folks that you are definitely going to want to keep up with, so make sure to follow them on their socials as well. Don't forget, we mentioned this last episode and it's still not too late, but we'd love to feature your amazing turtle art in an upcoming episode. For submissions, head on over to our SpeekyGeeky official Instagram page or tag us in the post with the hashtag SpeekyGeeky TMNT fan art. Again, this is open to all ages, and we just ask that submissions keep in mind that it should be all ages appropriate content. Where else can you find Mr. Geeky in the coming months? Even though we are hard at work putting together a handful of geeky new deep dives and interviews together for you this very minute, never you mind how we know what time of day you are watching this, Buster. Just trust us. If it's in an hour of a day that ends in day, we're probably working hard on it. SpeekyGeeky's very own Mr. Geeky, hey, that's me, is still managing to make the rounds all over the YouTubes to spread his dorkiness far and wide. And yep, that sure did sound way grosser than we intended, didn't it? First up, over on our all-ages friendly sister channel, Geeky Jr., for all those of you who appreciate the sound of a voice that can only be described as if nails on a chalkboard met Golem from Lord of the Rings, you're in luck, because Mr. Geeky tries his best on all sorts of nostalgic classic stories with narrations and voices for all your little geeklings and adults who are young at heart. We're talking characters from Sesame Street like Ernie, Bert, Grover, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, Wonder Pets, Daniel Tiger, Thomas the Train, Yo Gabba Gabba, Rubba Dubbers, and so much more. You can also find SpeekyGeeky lending his voice to some upcoming Mirage 2003, 2012, and Rise TMNT comic read-alongs on Teddy Gaming Review's Bodacious channel here, as the voice of Professor Kaori on the fan-made audio adaptation of the hit fantasy series The Fourth Wing over on the astoundingly talented Maddie Moore's channel here, and finally, we'll be geeking out and dishing on all the current TMNT news on Turtle Talk, as well as helping some rad figures from their plastic confinement on Grippin' and Rippin' over on Dave Wonder's channel here. Oh, one last thing. We've got a ton of neat and meaningful originals we've got cooking up for fans of the channel. One of which we thought you might appreciate getting a little sneak peek on. So, here is your first glimpse of our SpeekyGeeky fan-made TMNT series that is coming soon to the channel in motion comic form and will be available in a very limited quantity print run exclusively as giveaways at conventions through our marathon stream over on our good friend and host of Turtle Talk, Dave Wonder's channel, and in our online shop once we get that up and running. Well, there you have it. That concludes part 1 of our TMNT Spotlight series. But don't stray too far from the sewer lair, because part 2 is right around the corner. We have no doubt you have some characters that make the tippy top of your list as well that you are stoked about seeing. So make sure to make your hopes known and join the discussion in the comments below. And if you haven't already, make sure to sub up, give the video a like, and share it with anyone you know who would appreciate these types of videos. Also, make sure to check out the description for some other links that lead to some expanded similar content we think you'll probably enjoy quite a bit. We realize you could have gone anywhere and you chose to nerd out with us, and we appreciate that. So, as always, I am Mr. Geeky, and until next week, TMNT Spotlight Speaky, keep it geeky, folks.